How would your clients describe you?
Oh my goodness. Let's ask ChatGPT for that. No, I'm just kidding. I could be nice, but hey, if you overstep that boundary. No, I'm just kidding.
Cutthroat.
That's the Capricorn coming out, okay? A lot of people who get into real estate now, they think it's just like a fast train to make money, and it is not. The hardest part of real estate is, how do you lead generate or prospect? And a lot of the newer agents, they don't know how to do that. And I feel like that should be a course that they should take. Hey guys, welcome back. And thank you so much for coming back, Seth. Seth is with IBA. He's a commercial and business broker. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Alina. I'm glad to be back. You're always awesome to partner with.
Yeah, thank you. And we actually continued our partnership in selling some business and a property not too long ago. So congrats to us. Yay.
Thank you. It was a great job by
Yeah.
yourself and the team.
Let's talk about how you met the client and how we kind of closed the deal together. So
Sure. So about 18 months ago, I was introduced to my client. He pondered how to retire from his greenhouse. He sells begonia plants into Costco's and several other stores along the western coast of Washington and northern Oregon. He also has 10 acres of land. 3 of those belong to the house that he lives on, and the other 7 belong to the greenhouse. He chose to try to sell it to his daughter, and sometimes family transitions work out great, but unfortunately sometimes they do not.
yeah.
In this case, there was a little bit of a hiccup, and the sale didn't work out as planned, so he took back the business. She had a change in life, so she and her fiance relocated, and then he came back to me to sell the property. We initially we marketed the business with the time frame and with the sale of the real estate or to relocate the business. And we had a plan that if we couldn't sell the business, then we would change that to a commercial development, of selling multiple houses. So that's when I contacted yourself, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And we partnered, we valued the property, both the house and the commercial real estate, and we came up with a plan. We reached out to several different nurseries and greenhouses, and we found one that my client knew for over 30 years, and they were interested in expanding their real estate presence, and they also realized that his business was accretive, meaning it added more margin dollars per plant to their business than their current business. And so it was a great win-win situation for everyone.
We also had other buyers that were interested in buying. Do you remember that?
We did. We've had a handful. We had probably 20 different buyers.
Yep.
Either they didn't have the financial wherewithal or we just couldn't agree on price.
Yeah. And we sold the property at the price that our client loved and was quite happy. How long did the process take?
The process took about 2 months to find the buyer and about 4 months to complete the transaction. Yeah. And this was a little bit longer than usual. We did have great farm financing. They had a good bank ag credit. They did a great job throughout. The biggest hang up was the complexity of the real estate, as you know, right? Yeah. So maybe we want to talk about that. Yeah. The land, the 7 acres adjoined to a creek. There were wells that were servicing the water, some that were adjacent to the resident's house. So to turn on the pumps to move the water from the creek to the greenhouse, they literally would walk up to the master bedroom and turn on the switch. Well, that works great when you're the owner operator on the same piece of land. But when we sell this house, I'm sure that the couple in the master bedroom would not want to see a worker turning on the pump. No. So we created an easement and agreement with the buyer to put a pump on his side of the boundary line where his parcel begins, which is, roughly 100 yards from the point of entry from the water. So we worked with a land and water attorney, right, to draw up an easement.
We can give you guys referrals if you need anything like that done. They were great to work with.
They're absolutely wonderful. And we also had a consideration, what if there was repairs or maintenance or to clean out the pumps? How could a utility truck get there since it's going to have to go through the resident property? So we had to come up with a utility easement. We also shifted some of the boundary lines so that the property could access certain things that was unique to the farm. And so we cleaned up the boundary line. And so that also required an encroachment agreement, temporary until the boundary line was approved. Going through the city right now is really busy. To get permits and whatnot approved takes time. And so we had to, in order to get the deal closed in a timely fashion, we had a post-closing obligation and we got out to work.
It's in the heart of like a hustling and bustling city, but you would not even know it if you are standing on the land there. It's very quiet, surrounded by trees. The land itself is 7 acres plus the property that's.
It's very pristine. I remember sitting on the client's deck of his house, the porch, and just peaceful to relax and just take in the moment and look around, see the tall trees, hear the water
and drink the
bustling.
Wine. It's a great wine drinking place too.
Yes. They've had wedding events there too. So whoever's going to be, we're going to sell the house, and that house could be used for weddings. They have a huge yard where you could set up and a great, but it's also just a wonderful place to hang your hat and relax after a hard day's work.
Yeah.
So Alina, can you share your most embarrassing time working as a realtor?
The most embarrassing time. Well, I was showing a house once, and anytime that, we schedule an appointment and we know the home was occupied, we want to make sure that when we get in, it's not occupied. You get the key and you knock on the door a couple times and you make sure no one's in. Well, I knocked on the door a couple times. I opened the door, said, "Hey, realtor here. I'm showing your house." Yeah, and the man walked out in a towel. It was pretty amazing. I think I turned like bright red, and I was like, "Oh my God, I am so sorry. I did schedule the appointment," and I think he was just, he did that on purpose. I feel like so that was pretty embarrassing. And of course, I ran out, and that was. Now I announced myself several times, and
I bet sure it's got to be a little scary walking into a house.
Yeah. The client was behind me, and we were both kind of had a good laugh about it later.
So my brother's a realtor. I know you personally. I know that you're always on the clock. Can you talk about what it's like to be on the clock all the time versus 8 to 5?
Oh my gosh. I work 24/7, and even if I think I'm not working, I am working. So at least that's what my husband says. Like, I don't actually think that I'm working. I feel like it's kind of a hobby that I get paid in. So my phone's with me, all the time. I'm constantly trying to communicate with my clients or, get in touch with, follow up or anything like that. Of course, I don't go past like maybe 9 p.m. or anything like that, but I'm constantly trying to like innovate, do stuff, and figure out how can I be better, So, and I don't think of it as work, so.
I've known you, and every time I call, you do a good job with boundaries. You have kids. How do you stay so organized to balance that out?
My kids are in school from like 9 to 3, so I try to make sure I get everything done in that time. And then if I need to meet clients afterwards, my husband's the one that takes care of everything else. So we have a pretty good partnership where he calls himself single dad on the weekend. So. There's no work-life balance, to be honest with you. I don't really have too many hobbies because I'm always working. So, and I feel like that's my hobby. So.
Do you have any secrets to share with all the different multimedia? You got emails, you got text messages, you got all the different apps that buyers can look at houses and send you. I mean, how do you stay on top of all this?
I do have an assistant that keeps me in check. She helps with my transactions, and I have an operations manager who helps me with everything else. So my job is to go sell.
Okay, cool.
She helps me to kind of stay on track, like back end things. So, and then I sprinkle in my own stuff. So
great.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular house or project that you really get too excited when that person calls you up and says, "Hey, I want you to sell this house. I want you to look at land. I want you to do whatever it is." Like, what is it that gets you? Is there any particular type of deal that gets you super excited?
It's not really so much like the excitement. It's more of like the fulfillment. Like if I know that a family's like, they want to get into a house or they need to sell a house by a certain time, that's where I come in and I have to like hustle, right? But if I have a family, like, for example, I had a family that was like about to have a baby next month. We had to find a house within a 3-week period, and I got it done. Or I had a family that had to move to Chicago, and they had to sell it by a certain time. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to make that move. So it's like more of a fulfillment and like making sure I can serve my clients. Of course I get excited when I see like, oh my God, this house is absolutely stunning. I get to or it's architecturally pleasing. Like for me, that's pretty fun to see. So
it's great helping your clients achieve an important life goal.
Yeah.
So having a baby, moving, relocating their family.
That's like the reasons why they're making the moves, right? Like, of course I've had things were not as pleasing. I get, divorce, death, things like that. Those are not fun, right? Very sad. But at the same time, it's, being there for the family to, in the worst time of their life and just being there. So it's also fulfilling, right? You're invited into this family's kind of circle to help them with like one of the most difficult decisions and things in their life. So it's very honoring. But yeah.
And humbling. It's very
humbling,
great.
Yes. Very humbling and honoring. Yeah.
So I know in selling a business, there's always 2 or 3 things that typically come up for potential deal killers you got to navigate through.
Yep.
In real estate, what do you always prepare to battle for?
Somebody who is absolutely rude, like my clients who just don't have any respect for me, that's a deal breaker for me. Like if the 2 people, like if it's a couple, if it's a partnership, then if they can't come to an agreement on something and I cannot be that deciding factor, that's a deal breaker. Right?
Do you terminate the agreement?
I would have to, but it's no other way, right? But I've not had to do that many times, but I know that would be a boundary for me.
Makes sense. In a deal, is that usually something where you came to an agreement on a purchase sale, but the financing contingency fell through, or the inspection? Are there any of those things that you have to help navigate and make sure?
Of course, yeah. The buyers have to have a legal excuse to get out. So I'm gonna fight for my seller. If you didn't use those contingencies, that's where I go to war. Nice.
Are you equally buyer seller, or are you exclusively seller? How do you operate your business model?
50-50. In the last 2 years, I've been more seller heavy, but I love working with both. I think every type of transaction is a different one, and I love the challenge of like no person is the same, right? So there's always something different in every single one. So.
Do you enjoy one over the other?
Oh my gosh, good question. I do enjoy working with sellers. I love having the timeline, and I mean, of course, buyers have the timeline as well, but just having fun to prep the house and getting all the stats for them. I don't know. Sellers are fun to work with. The only, though, downside to sellers is that most of the sellers I have worked with, they are either, most of them are like moving away from here. So I do lose touch with them, unfortunately. But if you're a buyer, I get to have a closer relationship with you. So
what would you say to a pragmatist who's saying that, oh, realtors make too much money and they don't do very much? What would be your response to them?
It's a very good question. Look at that. Well, it's not about, they make too much. It's honestly like the experience. So like you hire me not because I got licensed yesterday, right? You hire me for the experience, my tribulations, challenges, right? So I can bring that experience to the table and know how to handle a problem if, So yes, that's kind of what you pay me for from my previous 11 plus years in sales and negotiating and helping buyers and sellers. So.
Very good. How would your clients describe you?
Oh my goodness. Let's ask ChatGPT for that. No, I'm just kidding. Clients would describe me as personable, warm, responsive as well. And when I have to be, very strict with timelines, making sure my clients are going to get what they want.
Do you want to weave in fair but firm?
Yes.
Did you answer something?
I can be nice, but hey, if you overstep that boundary, no, I'm just kidding. That's the Capricorn coming out, okay?
She did have some scotch before she got here.
Right. They can tell that I actually do enjoy working with them. I put like 110% each time. So, and hopefully they become my friends.
If you were talking to the Department of Real Estate, What would be one or two things that you would ask to change to make the industry better?
I think keep the training, because we are put up to a standard as an attorney, although we're not attorneys, of course, right? But we review contracts. We write contract as an attorney should in the real estate contract. So no, I would not ask them to change that. I am grateful for our, MLS, how they stood up for us and protected our commissions and the whole NAR lawsuit, right? And throughout the country, a lot of realtors are able to advertise their listings before they're on the market, like a coming soon or like anything like that. We're not allowed to do that. So, they are pretty strict on, like, I cannot even hint, like, if I'm at a listing and I'm prepping a listing or I'm meeting a stage or I'm taking photos, they want none of that. So they will fine you, and they'll find you. But that's something I would love changed. I feel like we should have more training for new agents. And I know that there are a lot of trainings out there, but a lot of people who get into real estate now, they think it's just like a fast train to make money, and it is not. The hardest part of real estate is, how do you lead generate or prospect? And a lot of the newer agents, they don't know how to do that. And I feel like that should be a course that they should take.
Well, I saw a stat, there's like 29,000 registered real estate agents in King County alone, not just the Washington State. Mm-hmm. Right. Granted, a lot of those are single people who just want a discount on their house, but that's a lot of work, to go acquire the license.
Yeah.
You do a good job differentiating yourself. Do you want to talk about how you do those things that you just talked about in terms of farming, hunting, and mining your prospects and separating yourself?
I think of real estate as not like a sprint, it's a marathon. Constantly looking for business. So whenever I sell a house or it's under contract, I'm already thinking of, like, where's my next client going to come from? So I'm constantly emailing, prospecting, calling. It just never stops. It's like a constant lead generation. And the moment you stop is when, the pipeline's going to dry up, so to speak. So yeah, the fact that I've been in sales my whole life, I know that prospecting, and actually it's not even that, it's more of like a relationship building with anyone who is in your sphere and your friends, colleagues, and more importantly, like business relationships like us. I think that's one of the best relationships, honestly. Like, I got to learn so much from you and things that I don't do typically on a daily. So my relationship building is very important to me. So.
It's an honor to know and work with you as well. So thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So you're just coming out of a deal, didn't go quite as well, but you got to go to your next big listing. I coach baseball. Mindset's really important for batters. Mm-hmm. How do you turn off that last conversation and turn on for the next one? Because
I am an extrovert, I think the moment I start to be in contact with someone else who is almost like on the same wavelength as me, like, I'm a very positive person, so I have to constantly shut down the negative in my head if I need to be. So, like, if I find someone else who's on a positive, I'm going to forget about, at least for a moment, for that bad conversation that we had earlier, right? So it's just, and it actually kind of fuels you to move forward. It's like, I learned that any failure is a lesson. It's hard to think about it at first. I was like fighting with it, and then I'm like, it's true, because whatever you failed at before, you can fuel your next project. Like,
when your children want dessert, do they negotiate with you?
Heck yes.
Are they good?
No.
Why not? Yeah, what are you teaching them?
Well,
I'm teasing you.
It's negotiation is, yeah, you can have dessert, but let's talk about what protein you had. Yeah, they're always wanting candy or chocolate or whatever. So.
Do they have a lemonade stand?
No.
Oh.
But we are teaching them that it's better to be in business for yourself than to work for someone else. Although you have to have that experience, right? Mm-hmm. So
you talked about embracing AI. How do you feel about the future for what's ahead?
Scary. No, you just have to embrace it. You got to use that as a tool, right? For me, I use AI every single day. It helps me in marketing. It helps me in media. I don't know. It's so many things.
Very good.
It'll never replace us as human beings.
Because
the 2 AI bots are not going to be able to do this.
100% agreed. So. It's been amazing chatting with you today.
Thank you,
Thank
Seth.
you so much for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's been great. I appreciate your awesome questions.
Sure.
You're going to do great at that webinar that you're going to do.
Thank you. Appreciate that.